Today is Monday, March the 11th, 2013, and this is the start of an interview with Mr. James Yount at the RSVP offices of Catholic Services of Macomb, located at 26238 Ryan Road, Warren, Michigan. Mr. James Yount is 67?
69.
69. He was born May the 20th, 1943. Mr. Yount currently resides at 49713 Elk Tray Drive, Shelby Township. My name is Dave Brousseau. I'll be the interviewer, and Gary Miglio will be the videographer. Mr. Yount, would you state for the record the branch of service that you serve?
The Navy.
Okay. You were born in Detroit. Cooley High.
Yes.
Okay. How many family members were there?
I have one sister and two brothers.
Were either of the brothers in the service?
My younger brother was, he was in the reserves, a 7-year reserve program, I think.
Yeah.
He was in the Army.
Mm-hmm. Were they older, or you have a younger animal?
Both brothers were younger, and my sister's older.
Oh. Now, what got you into the service? This would have been...
I went in at the age of 17. I went into the reserves, the Navy Air Corps Reserves. My dad wanted me to go in the service. He figured that the discipline would probably do me good, and so I went in. And as soon as I graduated from high school, I went on active duty.
Where did you go to boot?
Glenville Naval Air Station.
Where's that?
That's just north of Chicago and Great Lakes.
Oh, okay. What did you think about, short of your dad giving you kind of a gentle push, were you aware of what was going on?
Oh, I was well aware of what was going on in the world and everything. I knew eventually that I would probably get drafted, so I figure if I'm going to go in, I might as well go into a branch of my choice.
And what made you choose the Navy?
Education and traveling.
That was a big thing back then, wasn't it?
Yes.
I recall that I had the choice to make, and I made the choice and didn't want to go in the Army. It seemed to me anybody could go in the Army. You had to be selected to get into the Navy, and the schooling was what really got me going. Yes,
well, I went because of the fact that the place the Navy takes you is basically what you've had all the way through grade school and high school through your studies, and you might as well be able to see it now.
I wasn't too keen about the water, but
the water didn't bother me, so.
Yeah, you're one of those weird ones, boy. Just how you could go out on that ship doing this kind of stuff, I get sick thinking about it.
It's like riding a bike. You get used to it.
All right, you get to boot camp. What's that like in terms of a different experience?
Well, it was, from what I remember of it, it was just, you have to do this, do that. Everything was regimented to a certain time frame. It wasn't
discipline.
Discipline, it wasn't, well, when I feel like it, I'll do it. It's when they tell you to do it, you do it. And I learned that what you were in there, everything they taught you, was to your advantage, because someday it may save your life. So it wasn't anything that you just took for granted either. You should learn what they were teaching you.
How long was boot, do you remember?
2 weeks.
2 weeks?
2 weeks. That was my two-week tour that I had to do each year. You had to go somewhere for 2 weeks. Well, when I first went in, I had to do my 2 weeks, so they sent me to basic.
Oh, okay, because I did the 2 weeks too, but the more normal boot was
6 to 8 weeks or
8
something
to
like
10
that.
weeks, yeah.
Yeah, mine was 2.
Yeah, okay.
Jam everything in 2 weeks, but
That's what I went through. I didn't think anybody else did that.
it was good.
All right, so when did the learning, education start that they promised?
Oh, I think when I was out at sea and the kind of work I did in the countries I went in, I got to actually see how people lived and whether the history books were right, et cetera, like this. I never went to a school because I wasn't in there long enough to go to a school. I was in my own special training of the job that I had, so they didn't send me anywheres.
So after
Because of the
boot,
work I was doing, I was in a critical skill.
after the boot, where did you go?
I came back home, graduated from high school, and then went right on into active duty.
Where did they send you?
I went to Philadelphia, got my orders, and then went to Quonset Point, Rhode Island, where I was to board the USS Essex.
What was that experience like?
Uh, it was
You got to be impressed with something that big.
I was impressed when I saw the ship, the size of it. Of course, it wasn't there when we pulled in because I think it was out at sea due to weather conditions. They don't leave them tied in there
Right.
at the docks when they get the storms and everything coming in. So I had to wait for it to come in. So I was nervous because I wanted to see what it looked like. I'd never seen a carrier. I had seen very few pictures of carriers up till that time. But it was strange how I even got on the ship because I was promised this dream sheet that the Navy gives you. When you get your orders, they'll ask you what kind of ship you want. Well, I have an aviation rating. I'm not going to go on a submarine and I'm not going to go on a destroyer. I'm going to go on a carrier. So I thought it was, some of the questions they asked me were stupid, but I'd also heard at the time when you get to pick which coast you want, the Atlantic or the Pacific, whichever one you want, take that last because that's the one they'll give you. They never give you your first choice. So I took the Pacific first and then I took the
So I
Atlantic.
got you on the Atlantic, huh?
That's what I wanted, was the Atlantic, because I was closer to home if I wanted to come home on leave. And I wanted to see Europe. I was not really that impressed at that time about going to Asia or going over on the Pacific. If I had to do it again now I would go on the Pacific to go to on the other side of the world.
Because of the places you could go?
Places you can go and the things you could see, because you just don't see that in school.
No.
You read about it, but you never see it. And
No.
you're lucky if you ever make it there in your lifetime to this stuff, to
Yeah.
any of these places.
Now you're talking what, 5,000 on the boat, on the ship?
Yeah, you got to clarify that a boat you can put on a ship, but you can't put a ship on a
Right.
boat. So I was on a ship.
Obviously,
Yeah, I think ours held about 2,500 to 5,000 on there, compared to today, well over 10,000.
you can get lost on one of those things.
Back then you could, but now you can get even more lost or more confused. They're all built structurally, they're all built basically the same, but it's just the convenience there is a lot better than what I had because we were on hammocks on there.
Now, hammocks. I don't ever recall being on a hammock because that was before me. So this must have been a World War II.
I think the Essex came out sometime in the middle of the Second World War.
Yeah.
And then the hammocks
Hammocks,
were, it was just two poles, one on one end, one on the other. And then they had three bunks and they were hung by chains. One with the main one was up here, then the second one hung. There were hinges on the poles. You put the frame of the bunk on there, and then the other chain was hung on the one above, and then the one on the bottom was hung on that. So they all hung on.
Now, laying on the hammock, what's on your back? What's right in front of you?
You got the person right above you. There's another bed right
Or
above
if
you.
you're on the top?
On top, you just got the bulkhead or the ceiling.
Or pipes?
Pipes are
Water,
the
heat,
ceiling.
or whatever pipes, right? I mean, these things are very, very tight.
Yeah, and then right next to you, where your three are, on the other side of the pole are another three. So basically, you got six hanging on two pipes that were
It's
running
funny how
down,
things
two
you
poles
can
hanging
get used
down.
to when you get on ship. Everything is different.
I very rarely slept in mine though, because I slept in my working space.
Where was your assignment on the ship?
Naval intelligence, naval air intelligence.
Okay, now where was that?
I was down on the, I think, second or third deck, down in the island structure.
What were your specific duties?
I had to chart ships. I had to do dispatches that came in. I had to pull out silhouettes for the pilots, and I read top secret stuff that was coming in all the time. And it was like espionage agents in the other countries telling what was going on. And I pretty well knew what was going on in the world with everything
That's
that the
kind of
world did
neat
not
to be
know.
in that kind
That
of
was my
position.
education.
Wow. Now, when you say silhouettes, what happens? What silhouettes what are they doing that for the flyers, pilots?
So that the pilots know what kind of ships that are out there. They
Yeah.
silhouette the ship so
So they can tell what it is.
what kind of ship it is out there too.
Can you tell what country it's from?
By the make, usually they could tell.
Are we talking jets now? Probably, huh?
No, there wasn't that many jets at the time. Like, we only carried 4 jets. They were AJ-4s. And it's nothing compared to what they have now. But we were the Essex was basically an anti-submarine carrier. They hunted submarines. We had the newest sonar on there and everything else. The aircraft we had with the umbrellas on the top, there were Willie Fudds and
Oh, yeah, okay.
and we hunted submarines. Went after the submarines.
Well,
mostly.
these are twin engine planes, aren't they?
Yeah,
With the radars?
yeah, they had the
Wow.
propellers on them.
They're getting that sucker off there, wow.
So that was our job, was to go
Pretty
out
big
and
plane.
hunt submarines and pull them up and send them back to where they came from.
Now, when you hunt the sub, we're still in peacetime. What do you do?
Right. Nothing, you follow them and watch what they do. Basically, you're following them. But I wasn't in peacetime during my time on the Essex.
Yeah.
I was in the Cuban blockade, which was not peacetime.
Now, when you find them, they know you found them.
Oh yeah, they know they're spotted.
I mean, there's no hiding that.
No, and obviously they have to come up anyways because at the back in those days they had to come up to recharge their batteries.
Yeah, every so often.
So you stay with them until they come up.
Then what?
They know that they're there, and they try to play war games with you. Just try to get away from you.
You give them the international
Maneuver.
greeting sign?
Probably one. Yeah, I know, the international. Yeah, they could do that too. There's nothing you can do about it either. Yeah, that sign was international. It was all over. Believe me. But the other ships that they looked for were trawlers, because the Russians did not really have a navy per se as we do. Everything was operated, from what I remember, out of trawlers.
Mm-hmm.
And they were
A lot of
loaded.
secret.
They were loaded with everything on them that a regular naval vessel would have on it, as far as electronics and spyware and radar and et cetera, right down. So their trawlers were their main navy, and that's all you saw in the ocean. A lot of was the Russian trawlers.
Constant cat and mouse games
That's all
going
it
back and
was.
forth.
That's all it was. That was the Cold War then. So you had big time cat and mouse games out there.
Did they have routines daily where the ships or the fighters would go off and?
Yes, they had the pilots out there were flying constantly around the clock on these ships. They don't leave the carrier. They didn't leave the carriers sit in. Carriers were gone most of the time, and the pilots were always flying around the clock. That's why you had meals on the ship 4 or 5 times a day, because they had to feed you in the middle of the night too.
Yeah, I can't remember seems to me there was a 6 a.m. and then there was
6, noon, 5 o'clock, and then there was 10 or 11
and then
o'clock at
another,
night.
yeah. And when we got aboard with carrier duty as plane guard, we were always 12 on, 4 off, 12 on, 4 off. You had a lot of rotation going on.
Oh yeah, it's because of the fact that
I mean, it's all peacetime, but you got those guys flying off of there. Some of them don't make it off. Some get off and have to ditch, and somebody's got to go get them. And
you're always running those, and then you're running general quarter drills.
oh yeah,
For wartime, you take off and go down to your battle station. As soon as they say, this is a drill, general quarters, and then all hands man your battle stations, and then they'll repeat it again that it's a drill. So that they know, but then they gotta get down there. They do the same thing when somebody goes overboard. It's general quarters, man overboard.
And a couple of those I say, gee, this is what goes on in peacetime. What's it like in wartime? This is constant. You're trying to stay alive, and it's peacetime.
And they do them in the middle of the night too.
Yeah.
So, you know, you gotta have everything set in case you do go to war.
Whereabouts did you end up going once you were assigned to the Essex? Was there a routine, or were there disembarked to a certain 6 months, 3 months duty and come back, or? No,
usually when we went out, we'd pick up our squadrons from Norfolk, Virginia. Squadrons would come on, and then they'd fly their planes out after that. Then we went, we made a trip over to Europe, and we were down in Cuba, and we did the North Atlantic. We took on a big storm in the North Atlantic and had a lot of damage done to the ship at one time in there. So we ended up going to New York for quite a period of time into dry dock to repair it.
Mm-hmm. What's it like? I've never been on a carrier when it's really rough.
If I didn't believe in God at the time, I did after that storm in the North Atlantic.
Okay, I got you clear.
They hit a wave out there, and I was back on the fantail, and I looked down on the hangar deck, and it was completely buckled like this all the way down. After they hit that wave out there, and I got raised up about 4 or 5 feet off the back, and the side of the ship was tore off, and it was. If you weren't a believer in God, you had to be after that.
Boy.
Yeah, they lost one of the screws on the back. It was a mess, and they had a hard time coming back home because they had to watch out for storms. They couldn't take another beating.
I thought you guys were safe and living the life of Riley.
So did I. Until you get up in that North Atlantic.
Yeah.
But puts a whole new light on everything, and you learn the fear of the water, the power of the water.
Oh, for sure. When you take a wave along the starboard side and it comes down and hits that wave and the whole ship does this quiver. Wow. I mean, this is all steel.
Carriers don't go this way either. Carriers go like this.
Yeah.
And then after a while, that's why sometimes you see when the sailors are walking like this. They get used to it. I mean, you go through the hatches and everything, and you got to watch it because you got to step up this high to get through the doorways on these things, and you hit it wrong, you bang your shins all the time on them too. So, but you're always going like this when you're walking when you hit one of those storms.
But being locked into a room, that didn't bother you?
No.
Boy.
I had no windows. In the office that I worked at, there were no windows. The advantage that I had to working in there was air conditioned. So when we were down in Cuba, or you were down around the equator and everything else where it gets hot, I was always cool. It was one of the 3 air conditioned spaces on the ship, and that's why I slept in there too.
Now you said you went in 1960?
1960 I joined the Navy, yes. 62 I was in blockade.
So you had almost 2 years before the blockade occurred.
Right. That was reserve time that I was doing. My reserve time, that time it was called, you had to do active reserve. You had 2 years active reserve, 2 years active duty, and 2 years inactive reserve. Yeah, I was on a 6-year program. And you had to do the 2 years active reserve. And if you didn't, they could pull you on active duty whenever they wanted. It was called the 222 program.
When was your trip down to Guantanamo?
I don't remember if we went twice, but I do know the one time that we did go was in October of 1962.
Okay, we'll get to that.
I may not have been there a second time, might have been the Virgin Islands, but
Yeah.
I know that we were down in that area, but I do know we were down in Guantanamo in October of 1962.
The duration of your trips, were there any, are they like what we see now, or they for 3 months, 6 months, and then come back and?
Yeah, when you went out, you were out for a while. We were out a couple months maybe a couple months at a time. At that time.
That get you antsy of being aboard ship that long?
Not a lot, because you're going to different ports, so but you
Yeah.
don't stay there very long either. It's not a good idea to just leave those things tied up at a dock someplace.
Yeah, but do they really tie them up at a dock, or do you anchor out and get back in and out with a motorboat?
Most of the places we went in Europe we were tied up at the dock. We were right to the dock.
Somebody meet you out at the port, the mouth of the canal or something
Yeah,
to
they
help
had
you come
a
in?
come in. We went into Hamburg, Germany. Where I think at that time we were the only carrier that went up the Elbe River, and it was a little tight going up there. Because what I understand is we scraped the bottom going in there.
Well, you're going so slow, you just can't steer those suckers. They're going so slow.
No, so we went.
And you need someone that's nudging your nose back and forth to keep you in the canal.
They got pilots that take you in with the tugboats and everything too. So that Europe cruise was nice, because you study about that all through school.
And you get in the canal too, and the ship comes up quite a bit, so you're really high. You get out to sea, you start to take on water.
You know how high you are when you're out at sea, because the water it's there.
Yeah.
You really can't tell till you. Actually, you really can't tell till you're standing underneath it, standing on the docks and looking up at it.
Yeah.
Then you can see how high and how big it really is.
Wow, it's amazing.
Now it's even bigger. So,
what was your purpose in Guantanamo?
At that time, I don't know what the purpose was that we were down there, but we didn't stay there very long, because we went in there I think we got in there on Friday, and Saturday morning we pulled out under general quarters, and this was not a drill.
That was the 62
blockade.
crises? Yeah.
And we, from what I understood, we dropped off a detachment of Marines, and we didn't even wait to pick them up. We left them behind. And we pulled out, I think, at 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning under general quarters. And this is not a drill, general quarters.
It's the first one you had?
Yep, without
What did you think about that?
I really didn't know. My battle station was the intelligence officer. So when I went down there, the intelligence officer came down there, and he said, "What I'm about to tell you," he says, "is top secret." And he says, "It's not to go any further than what I tell you, because you're going to have to know." So he told me what it was. And when I went in the ship there, my buddies would all ask me what was going on, because they knew that I probably had an idea. And their rumors were it was China and India had gone to war, and that we were an ally of India. And that's what we were headed for. And I couldn't say anything.
The scuttlebutt just goes all over.
It's amazing how fast it goes too. So it's I couldn't say anything, but I knew at that time what was going to happen.
What was your ship's purpose then, from that point on?
We became the blockade.
Yeah.
We were the blockade as of that morning when we pulled out. We were the blockade of Cuba, on Cuba.
So what did that entail specifically?
We pulled out and we started patrolling to be the blockade, because it hadn't officially been declared yet, but it definitely was going to be declared.
What did you think personally was going to happen?
I didn't know. I had no idea. I never heard of it, never heard of them ever doing this. So I had no idea what I was in for or what we were in for. And as time went along, I began to see what could have happened out of the whole situation.
You really think it could have happened?
There's no doubt in my mind. I know that we were probably that close to it happening. And I'm talking about the Third World War. There's absolutely no doubt in my mind about it.
Were you on top of it daily?
Yes.
I mean, they were in touch?
Yes, I saw everything that came in, that came down, because we had to put it away. I mean, it came from CIC, and it came down to the intelligence office. It was regular dispatches, and I just read it all when it came in, so I knew exactly what was going on. And believe me, at that age, it's hard to keep your mouth shut. I'm not saying that, but I didn't say anything. I never said a word. I couldn't even tell my parents that.
Well,
And a letter.
when you send out letters, they've got to review those yet?
I don't know. I don't know whether they reviewed them, but I never mentioned it to them. They wrote to me and told me about some of the stuff that they'd heard. And I would just write back and say, I don't know.
They didn't even know where you were, did they?
No.
Yeah.
They knew I was down there someplace because I told them when we left.
Oh,
we were
so
going
they
down
knew
there.
you were down that
Yep,
way, but
yep. So I told them when we left, we pulled out of Quonset Point, I says, we're going down to Cuba and we're going down to the Caribbean for a while. So they knew that I was down there. But that's all they knew. Now my mother sent me a letter a couple weeks later showing a submarine that was pulled up out of the water, forced to come up, and it was the Essex planes that made the submarine surface. And then they gave it an escort back. Made it turn around and go back.
how do you make it turn around?
Because you stay right there with it and you're not budging. I don't know how they make it. Maybe it was the fear of the war. Maybe it was who's going to shoot who. But Detroit News had the picture in it. I wish I brought it with me because I still have the picture in the article.
Vaguely remember that.
Did she realize that it was your ship?
No, because she asked me. She asked me if this was the ship that I was on that brought this up. And after I saw the article, I said, yeah, that was ours. But when the blockade came...
Well, she knew you were on the Essex, so...
Yeah.
Yeah.
But she didn't, I don't think she really could remember some of that stuff because the only way I knew I could see on the helicopter, because they had which squadron it was or whatever was on there. But I knew it was ours because I'd already heard that we'd done it, that the Essex had done this. So...
Well, it would seem to me, you really don't have to do anything. You got the sub to come up. What's he going to do? Get into a pea shooting contest with you?
That isn't who we were after.
Yeah, but I mean, it's easy to turn them around by just
They went
being
back.
there.
They go back. They know it. It's a war game with them. The trawlers are the ones that we were after, and that's the ones that we got.
Carrying
the missiles.
yeah.
And we did get those, and we did force them to turn around and go back. That's when you came as close to the Third World War as you were ever going to come to it. Because the pilots were told, the pilots had the planes were loaded with live ammunition, and their job was to go blow those ships out of the water. They were going to run the blockade. And when these planes approached the ships decided they weren't going to go any further, and they turned around and went back. But that's as close as you came to the...
Was there communication going on between the
pilots
trawlers
and the ships? I don't know.
No, between the trawlers and the ship?
Between our ship and the trawlers, I don't know. I wasn't in that part where I could hear if they were
It's
having
okay,
any-
you can tell me now.
No, I wasn't in that part of the ship that I knew whether they were having any conversation or not. All I know is what I got the pilot with the ship, silhouettes of the ships that the pilots took out with them, so they know what they were. And
Were they still going through exercises while you were there doing that?
what do you mean going through it?
Well, the subsurfaces, are you still going through the flight exercises that you normally would go through? I mean, was everything normal going on aboard ship?
Everything,
Even when they were up?
as far as we were concerned, everything was normal on there, but the pilots weren't. The pilots' job was to go out and watch for ships during this period of time. They were out looking for ships that were going to run the blockade. Or try
So
to
you
run
were
the
still
blockade.
going through the exercises?
Right. You just kept doing it. And then if they tried to run, your job was to either blow them all the water or make them turn around and go back. And I think these ships did the right thing by turning around and going back, because we may not be sitting here today if that didn't happen.
Well, my memory is a little foggy, but I can remember that they were threatening they were gonna bust the blockade.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's just,
Then that's when the planes went out after them. And I know that they were told they had live ammunition on them to use it if you have to. But I knew the blockade was, on that Saturday we pulled out, I knew that there was going to be a blockade as of Monday night. That Kennedy was going to come on the radio and declare a blockade. In fact, we got to listen to the speech on Monday night.
this is the 50s, or 60s rather, I can't remember now, we had TV, but did you have it aboard ship?
No,
Where you could watch any of that stuff?
no.
Well,
They might have had it. I don't remember if they had it in the,
Yeah.
we saw the movies or not, but no,
Yeah.
and it was black and white too, so.
I mean, I couldn't tell what you knew and what you were doing, but I could see what the press was showing, and they gave us shots of
I don't remember.
the
if we
ships
had-
that were wallowing around trying to decide whether they were going to try to break through the invisible blockade.
All the stuff that you see on the blockade, you never see the Essex listed in there, and yet the Essex was the one that was in Guantanamo Bay the day the blockade began, right at the conception of the blockade, and all the way through the whole blockade. The Essex we were the only carrier that was down there at that time until I think Shangri-La or Forrestal, one of those other ships came down there after the blockade was officially declared. But you never see this ship listed as being a part of it. But if you looked at the ship's movements of the Essex during that time, it's got to be there.
Yeah. Well, I remember we were very scared here. I suspect you guys must have had a different kind of scary, because you saw it differently than we did.
I definitely saw it different. I was only 20 years old or 21 years old at the time. And, nuclear war.
Yeah.
It was big news at that time.
What do you think was the turning point in that whole thing?
Ships turning around and going back. They knew that we were not going to let them run the blockade. That this was it. It was a mistake made with the Bay of Pigs, and it wasn't going to be the same mistake made on the blockade. And they knew it this time.
Think we made the right decision
Yep. Oh, on which one?
on the blockade?
Blockade, yes. They had no choice. But it should have never come to that, but it did, and when it did, the right decision was made that this is what you got to do.
Why shouldn't it have come to that?
I think that it should have been eradicated around the time of the Bay of the Pigs. There was a lot that went on from that, and it was just building up, and they knew it, and they knew it, and knew it, and they saw these pictures coming a long time before. Just before that, it just didn't happen overnight.
See, from our perspective, it did.
For sure it did.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things that go on in the world that we don't ever know about until the last minute, but they've already seen it for 5-6 months before that. So
Did they kind of keep you out of the daily flow outside your area?
me personally,
If I was the skipper, I wouldn't want you running around with the rest of the guys.
no,
I'd want you secluded, because all you'd have to do is slip and say something they didn't want you to say.
no, they just took me. The intelligence officer took me pretty well for my word. And I never, to this day, I'll still say I never said anything to anybody about it. Even to my closest buddy on there, I just never said anything about it. And I've really never talked about it much until right now, because it.
Be interesting to talk to some of the aircraft pilots to see what they thought, because they probably would have been closer to,
Well, they definitely were. They were the ones that went out there.
yeah.
Um,
And when you do that, you always got some loose cannon out there that
that was such a
decides
touchy
he's gonna do
situation.
something before.
This was such a touchy situation. Though. You had all it took was just a little touch of the finger on a trigger, and that would have, anything could have happened. Who knows? But we were, and I will say again, we were this close to the Third World War. That's how close we were to it.
Was there one event that occurred that began to shape that they were gonna turn around? Was there one thing that happened?
I think when the planes came out,
Oh,
when the planes came out to greet them and see them trying to run the blockade, I think that's what they decided at that time that they were going to go back, make the turn, and not run the blockade.
Vaguely remember some picture or some newsreel or something. They're turning around, they're turning around. And I thought, yeah, right, we probably didn't see what happened several hours before that. Or
God, you see a bunch of planes coming at you, you know that they're not coming out there to greet you and tilt their wings at you and say hello.
Excuse me, how far away from Cuba was your blockade line?
I don't remember. We were out a little distance from it.
Just give me a rough guess. 100 miles, 150 miles.
I think it's only 90 miles from Key West to Cuba as it is.
Okay.
So we've...
well, but they're coming from Russia, so that's a different angle.
We had to come out from a different angle. We were probably out about 100 miles, 150 miles
Okay.
from Cuba yet. I really don't know how. I really don't know remember what the distance was that we were out there, because there were other ships that were out there too.
Sure.
So they could have been above us or below us. I don't know. I don't remember which ones were out there.
What other kind of ships would have been out there?
But we usually had a destroyer escort, and you had another carrier that was out there, or two carriers.
You know which ones those were?
I think one of the carriers out there was, I think it was the Shangri-La, or it was the Forrestal. I think it was one of those two. I'm not sure, because they would come out of Norfolk, Virginia. Well, whatever ones they had out of Norfolk or Jacksonville, Florida, or Pensacola. So
Wow, that's quite a bit of air power.
yeah, so they would have come out of one of those three places.
Were there subs there too?
I don't remember if the subs were in there or not. All I know is what we usually had with us when we were out. It was always a destroyer escort. So we had destroyers with us also.
Yeah. I don't think they'd go anywhere without some kind of
They always
cruiser destroyer escort.
Yeah.
I learned early in my Navy life, we're here to protect the carrier. That's it.
You also learn never.
And that means get in the way of a torpedo, get in the way of a plane. That it doesn't mean, because we didn't have a lot of stuff you can shoot that would bring a jet
That
plane
means
down.
you volunteer.
Right.
That's one thing you were told in
You
the
are the
Navy.
sacrificial lamb.
That's one thing you were told in the Navy. Never volunteer for
Right.
anything. They'll volunteer
Right.
you.
Right. That was very satisfying. So they begin to turn around. What are you feeling now?
Oh, I didn't think it was over, because I thought it was too easy.
Yeah.
That there was more to
Gotta
it.
be more to it than this.
That was too easy. It's like the same thing. If it looks good, it looks too easy. It probably isn't what it seems to be. But in this case, it was. But it lasted for probably, I think, another week, where they were still on the.
Well, I'll remember, if it looks like a duck and acts like a duck and quacks like a duck, it is a duck.
But I think it lasted, I don't know, maybe a week, 2 weeks after that, before they finally
Figured out they were
came
headed
out to
back.
some resolve, and they were going to disarm it and get everything out of Cuba, and then let this guy that's still there, clinging to life.
You know,
continue
I
on the place.
remember it starting, I remember daily for a week of the goings on. And once they officially said they were turning around, I don't remember anything after that.
No, it was
I
basically
mean, there
over.
probably wasn't a lot of press, but I just don't remember.
It was basically over. But it was,
I mean, there must have been something going on, but I just, you know, I'm first, second year college, trying to get through a tough university. It's like I don't remember an awful lot before the assassination. I remember everything for the week of it, and then after that, I don't remember a whole lot after that.
well, I know where I was when the assassination came, but this thing I'll never forget as long as I lived. But after about a week, 2 weeks, it was over. But we still were. We went into port. We were only allowed to be like 2 hours away from the ship when you went on liberty, because they were still.
Oh boy, yeah.
They didn't want you too far in case the ship had to leave. So during the time, and after that, for a while, you were only allowed to go like 2 hours away. I sort of put that off to the side, and I decided I was going to come home a couple of times, so I did, which was more than 2 hours away from Rhode Island. And I hitchhiked back too, through both of them all the time. But there were a few on the ship that knew where I was, so if they had to get a hold of it, if that ship was moving. That's one of the worst things you could do is miss ship's movement in wartime cruising. That's a very big no-no.
I would imagine it takes at least a couple hours to get one of these things stoked up and ready to move.
Yeah, they don't.
I mean, the engines are, did you have nuclear power?
No.
No. I don't know what they do when they're in port, but just to get one of our boilers up and running took a little bit of time.
I don't know how fast they could get out of there, but once they
And then to get out with a big elephant like yours, I mean, that's got to be a major.
Well, I was in Narragansett Bay, so it had a lot of room to turn around and to get out of there.
Okay.
Because Newport was right kitty corner from us over there too, so they had a big area in there. It wasn't a real tiny area that they were confined in at Quonset Point, Rhode Island. But it was in Narragansett Bay, and they had a big area they could turn around in and get out of there if they had to.
Where was this in your time in the service? In the middle?
Right in the
Toward
middle.
end?
Right in the
Toward
middle.
Were you a new religious man after that?
Well, no, I had the belief at the time, so it really didn't change me. But
Just
I could see
brought
why.
it into perspective a little better.
Yeah, I just brought it in. There was, it wasn't time. It wasn't time for the world to come to an end yet. So it was. I was concerned. I was concerned, but yet I saw everything that was going on. There was a whole lot of other things I saw going on in the world at that time because of the job that I had. It was just unbelievable that this stuff actually was happening.
Kennedy make the right moves?
I'm not gonna say one way or the other on that. I don't want to. I disagreed with some of the things that he did, and there was other things that he did, but I wouldn't say that he was the best that we had at the time.
Who was that?
I don't know. I don't know who would have been at that time for that, but I don't think that he was. I kind of grew up during Eisenhower's years too, so.
You think being a military commander would have made a difference, or could have made a difference, or maybe would have made it the answer, the result different?
No, because I think that you were dealing with lunatics over in Russia anyways. I mean, they didn't care over there. They were always the hard, stone cold faces on them. No matter how you ever saw them, it was always like this. And even today,
They were all meant to prove something, and I don't think they wanted a war.
Well, Kennedy was young. Kennedy was young, and Khrushchev wasn't the youngest person in the world. But I mean, these stone-faced guys, even when they clap, it was always like this. No enthusiasm in anything. Like it's a shame to even to applaud anything. You got it in North Korea today, so one that's just like them.
Yeah, it seems like him and Chavez and some of the others.
Chavez isn't with us anymore, but they keep Dennis Rodman over there with them because he belongs with them now.
That was quite a picture, wasn't it?
Well, yeah, but I mean, when you see a guy, a pro basketball player, running around in a wedding dress, and now he's sitting with this lunatic over there, it's
better to have him over there than over here.
Yeah.
Let them have him.
He should stay over there. He likes it so much. Stay over there. That's what I felt about a lot of the stuff back in there too. If you like it so much, go stay over there. So the other problem that we had there at this time was the wall in Berlin was up.
Yeah.
So you were dealing with that.
You were there.
We didn't get into Berlin, but I was at the east-west German border. You couldn't go any further than where I went in the free world. And they never had the Navy come in there before, because what's the Navy doing this far inland?
Yeah, you were
It was a
telling me
tour.
that was the first time
There was a tour that we got to take, that they got us to go to the east-west
that
border.
a Navy ship was in there. I'll be damned.
Yeah, we went
Where
up
was
to
that?
Hamburg, Germany.
You know, I should have brought a map. Where the hell's Hamburg?
Probably up in the
Northern part?
northeast,
Yeah.
a little towards the northeast. And went up the Elbe River, went in there. That's when we went to Rotterdam, Holland. And
How long did it take you to get down the river?
It was quite a while.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that it was quite a while. But just
Was
to go
there
to
some
that border-
concern that it was not deep enough to?
Yeah, I think we scraped when we went in.
Yeah.
But I was, you know, if I was scared of anything, it was when you're there. I mean, you're in another country. You're walking right up to the end of the free world, and you got guards standing down on the other end there, just watching you walk up to the fence or the gate that's there to keep you from going over.
Or you're halfway down the canal and somebody wants you out at another.
There's no way to turn around in that river.
There must have been a real important reason to be down that canal.
We were going as goodwill ambassadors. We went to Holland. That's why they did the writings on the ships with us standing up there. It was like hello,
Well,
Merry Christmas to you,
No
and
doubt.
goodbye, whatever it was.
no doubt. Was the Sixth Fleet out there in the Atlantic or the
I think we were the seventh.
Seventh? There were some backups that were covering their ass when they got in the canal.
Yeah, they had. You'd have to wonder what they were doing up there. I have no idea, except the only thing that I knew at the time that they were doing it was to show our strength.
Yeah.
And sometimes those kind of things are very important.
That you could maneuver and show your strength and go in there. And this is
And
one of the
put
reasons they put
yourself
the
in a
carrier.
position like that where you're not concerned about it.
No, this is why they put the carrier up the river, like that. That's not the saying up the river, but that's why
Yeah.
it went up there, was
Yeah.
to show that the strength in the air might that we had too.
Saber rattling.
Huh?
Saber rattling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What were you carrying? What kind of aircraft were you carrying?
We had 4 AJ-4s on there, and the rest were Willie Fudds and Stoofs. That's the ones that had sort of like the umbrella on the top, and then the helicopters. But we only had 4 jets on there, from what I remember. That was it. But you were going to get them off in the river, so it didn't matter. You don't have enough airspeed
Right.
or wind speed.
Yeah. And you didn't have catapults then?
We had catapults.
Well, you did.
Yeah, we had catapults or resting gear, yes. We had it all. We had the newest sonar on the bow and everything. It was, we were a well-equipped ship.
And that's a very huge bubble right at the tip
Yeah, at the bow, down at
that's
the bow.
not showing.
No, it's down under the water.
Yeah.
It's all sonar. It's, I saw guys go off the ship trying to commit suicide too, guys, you know. Because they get what was called the Dear John letter, so they decided
yeah.
they decided they were going to jump in.
Didn't you tell me about one?
Yeah, I
one
was
over,
standing. I was
and then
standing
you
on
got
the
him
back. I was standing on the back of the ship and just watching the water and everything. This guy came out. He was a mess cook, and he came out, folded his apron, took his apron off, took his hat off, and with the rope that runs around there for the guardrails around, he just folded it up, put it on top like this, took his hat, put it on top. Next thing, he put his hand on there, up and over he goes, off the back. I was
You were on your
surprised.
way at the time?
Oh, we were out in the middle of the ocean.
Oh my goodness.
And so I ran back to the squawk box and hollered up there, and they just turned on, yelled, told a man overboard. And it's amazing, all these guys, that when they jump off the ship or they try to commit suicide, when the helicopter drops those lines down, they don't refuse not to take it. They put their hand up to reach for it, to get pulled back up.
What'd they do with them when they pulled them back?
I guess they take them to a hospital, and eventually, I guess they get them.
You're in the middle of the ocean. You're going to take them to a hospital?
Mental hospital. They get them in shore, put them on a plane, and take them in.
Oh, like here. We're transferring we're transferring something out of here somewhere, that's probably,
Well, they had to do, they do it because, I mean, you know.
yeah, you can't leave them there,
They get them out of the service for medical reasons.
or get them off that ship anyhow.
But when they go off in the middle of the night, it's almost impossible to see. It's pitch black out there. You can't even see your hand out there. You put your hand out in front of you, you can't even see your hand.
That's right. That was quite a new experience for me too, when you're out in the middle of the ocean. Things are different.
There's no light, there's nothing. I mean, it's pitch black.
I mean, if there isn't a high moon, it is, the only thing that's white is the phosphorus in the water that you're
And you
cutting.
can hear it too.
And you can hear it. And that lights up. But that's it. I mean, I don't think people realize what pitch black means.
No, I've told people, I said, I can put my hand out like this and you can't see it. And so a guy goes off back then, it's really hard to find him. And that's when they go into, well, of course you go to general quarters, they know exactly who the person is and if he's missing. And then when they do the man overboard drills on a carrier, I don't know why they send you to the flight deck to jump off.
Right.
Why would you want to jump up 60 feet that far down when you go off the hangar deck or someplace that's closer?
Sure.
But that's where they send you. If you're going to do abandoned ship drills, they'll go up to the flight deck.
Did you ever have those?
Oh, we did those drills all the time.
And how did you get off the ship?
We didn't get off the ship.
Okay.
We didn't jump off. When you went up there as to, this is where you were supposed to go when it was time to abandon ship. Why would I want to run all the way up to the flight deck?
Well, it's an exercise. You can't do these windows. There can get 4 or 5 people there.
Yeah, but you can jump off the hangar deck, which is quite a bit closer.
Right. Well, I know, but to do the drill, they take them up on the top where there's room. And that scares you because you're up, good, looking down the water, you can hardly see it.
I used to just think, why would I be jumping up here? I still picture it to this day. Why did they send me up there? I'm looking down there. Why am I going to jump from up here?
Right. Were you, did you get Liberty in Germany?
I had good Liberty when I was in the Navy. I got what was called watch.
No, when you went down that canal, that river.
Yeah.
You did?
Yeah, in Hamburg, we all had.
Wow.
We got Liberty in Hamburg, Germany. That's
That
how
must
they.
have been a little touchy.
That's how they. Well, you go into these places. That's how you learn about the window shopping that they had in Germany and the little sections that they had there. Yeah. The one thing is, every place you went into, they always gave you a lecture. Yeah. And they make sure you got your shots and everything. Did
you get talking tos before you left? No trouble, no causing trouble?
No, nothing. You got the whole pep talk and everything else, but they turn around and we went into Germany. I had good Liberty. I could go off and on the ship anytime I wanted. Mm-hmm. I had what was called watch standards Liberty. Everybody else they were in sections like 1, 2, 3, and 4. So they'd have port's got Liberty today, starboard's got Liberty the next day.
Yeah.
Watch standard, I could come and go whenever I wanted on there. Because of the job I had, he got me a watch standards Liberty, and I loved it. So I wasn't
You're
bound by
actually
anybody.
docked when you were there?
Yeah.
How the hell do you get off that damn ship when it's docked?
They got ramps out. It's like a ramp to an airplane, the old airplanes that.
That's right. They would come out and then there's a stair.
Yeah, and you can walk down. Just like the ones they have for the airplanes. They got the big ramps that go up there. Out to them.
Yeah.
You walk up, salute the flag, and salute the officer standing there and asks to come aboard.
What do they go off the parking deck or actually off the flight deck?
There's 2 of them. No, they came on the hangar deck.
Hangar deck.
Yeah. The officers went off of the front part of the ship. The enlisted went off the back part.
Mm-hmm.
There was a little walk up. There was a steady walk to it.
Did you shop?
When I went shopping for something, I went to get one thing from each country for my brothers and my
you got to
sisters.
get something. What would you shop for?
I just brought them back something that I still got one today. I got a letter opener from Spain that I still got now. When my parents died, I got that. I had my grandmother a Dutch shoe with a light. It was a Dutch shoe was made looks like a sailboat. And it had a light inside it, like a night light. I got her that. I got that today because when she died, I just took that. The light doesn't work anymore, but the shoe is still there. And then my sister, I got her $1 worth, whatever $1 worth of coins was at that time from each country I went in, so she could make a bracelet. And my brother, when I went to Ireland, so I got him a shillelagh, and I just got him some stuff like that that you can't get here, that you can't find anyplace. And it was the true thing. A lot of stuff. I still got a cuckoo clock today that I got from Germany. It's still running.
Where do you put all this?
I didn't. I got rid of it. I gave it to my sister, my brother.
I know, but what do you do with it when you buy it? Where in the world is there a place on board you can store that stuff?
Well, the office that I worked in, I had a lot of storage room in there. And you could also get liquor in there when you came back. When you came back to the United States, you could buy a case of liquor, which would be 5/5 of, they were fifths, they were all fifths, so it would be 5 of them. You can get it for $7 for a case. And then I think if you get the mix pack where you could get a rum, a gin, a vodka, or something like that, I think it was like $10 for a case. But you had to be 21 because our home port, you were still 21. So it was really hard for me to get, like I wanted to get it for my dad, but I'd find somebody else that was 21 on there and they'd pick it up for me, and then after that they'd just give it to me and I'd take it home with me.
What other ports were you in? Spain?
Spain, I was in Cadiz, Spain.
What was that like in Spain?
Spain was nice. It was, we had no choice but to go there because that's when the ship was all blown apart from the storm, so we had to go over there to get fixed up a little bit so we could come back.
That's right.
We were supposed to go to Lisbon, Portugal. We couldn't go there. They had to go get the ship fixed up, so we went to Cadiz, Spain.
You know, there's limited places you can take a monster like that and get it fixed.
Yeah, well, they just fixed it up enough to get home, and then we took a southern route to come back and then hug the shoreline back up. Because, like I say, they couldn't go through another storm like it had. And then I read when I got out of the service and went back to North Atlantic and hit another storm, and the island structure, the mast came down onto the flight deck and everything, so it hit another one.
God.
I mean, it's just hard for me to tell you people how bad that water is, and how, you know, people that don't take the water serious, they really should. Once you get one of those, you'll really know the power of the water. There is.
Well, I know what life was like on a destroyer when the ocean got mad, but I can't imagine it damaging a carrier that big.
That's why it makes it even more for you to understand how the power of it is.
Yeah.
If it can do that to a carrier, we know what it can do to a destroyer or a smaller ship, but a carrier the size of a carrier that can do that kind of damage, that'll tell you the force that there is in the water.
Is it the force of the water itself at impact, or is it the twist of the ship, or is it a
Probably
combination?
both.
Yeah.
Both, yeah.
You hit it just right, and you got the power is power. I'll tell you what's going to give. It isn't the water that's going to give.
There's preferred techniques for taking on rolling waves, going at them or slightly off to the side. But when the water is not got the rolling waves, when it's mixed,
Yeah.
that's really tough.
Well, the other part with the carrier is the carrier doesn't make a 45-degree turn either.
Right.
You know, it has to be more of an arc turn on it. Like a destroyer, it can turn and just go like this. The carrier isn't going to do that. You know, like you take a stretch limo and go to make a 45-degree turn.
Up in the bridge, which is right up on the top, they used to have a little protractor upside down in a metal planer. And you watch that, and the guys would tell me when it hits 35 or 40,
You're listening.
you're taking water in the stack, and you're not going to come back from that roll. And I've been on there where it hit 30, 33. I mean, I was scared on the ship. When that happened, what's the next step of being scared to death? I was about another couple levels up there watching that damn needle.
They have changed it all now since all of us were in there. You know, as the years went by, it's gotten a lot better. I mean, they don't sleep in hammocks. They got beds right into the walls and everything. Now they got their individual air conditioning units and heating units.
Compartments.
Everything is all modern for them in there now. They don't know what it is to have to bet on what.
What was it like though, pulling into Hamburg, for example, versus Spain? What place in Spain did you go?
Cadiz.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where the heck's that?
Southwest of Madrid.
Okay.
It's on the Atlantic. It's on the Atlantic side.
Yeah.
Down near the bottom.
The people different?
Oh yeah, but when we went into Germany, I mean, it was just like I can still see it today, but even when we left Germany, they were on tugboats, they were on boats, they were on any kind of ship they could get up. They lined the shore to wave goodbye to us.
Oh, really?
Oh, they were happy that we were in there. They welcomed us the same way when we came in.
The people are different than the politics you read in the paper. Right?
Well, you weren't that far away from the war after that either. So, from the Second World War. Yeah, you know, this was 1962. So you're only 15 years from the war.
Probably still major
20 years from the war. So Rotterdam was just being built up from when we were in there from the Second World War. It wasn't even built the way it is now, but
so was
those
Spain
people,
different?
yeah, they didn't come and cheer us on like they did. Like,
so you're here, so what?
Yeah, Holland and Germany, they really did. It's a sight that even when I came home, I said, you'll never forget it the rest of your life. Never. People were just absolutely great to us. That's why we did one of these things on the ship where you stand up and say, Merry Christmas. We spelled out the words Merry Christmas with the sailors on the flight deck, or hello and goodbye or something to them. So
neat.
It was our tribute to them.
Well, that's neat.
So it was, but those two countries were.
Any other country?
Yeah, we were in England, and we were in Scotland, Ireland.
Were they any different?
It took a while when you go to England. I mean, to learn to look the opposite way first when you cross the street. I mean, usually when you cross the street here, you'll look, this way, and then you look this way. But there, you got to look that way first, because if you don't, you might be a part of the street. But the further up you go in England, Scotland, and Ireland, English changes a lot. What am I trying to think of? The accent changes drastically between all three of those countries. And
were there a lot of English speaking going on in these foreign countries, or?
No.
No?
No, not at that time.
I mean, these are the common people, and I expect they don't...
No, they didn't have a lot of English. In fact, I went to see relatives of mine in Holland, and I had the address, and all I had to do was, I couldn't even speak it. I just told it, let the bus driver see it, and he would point down the street forward, or when I had to get off, so he knew where I had to go. I could speak just a couple words of it, but that was the extent of it.
It's amazing.
And I would have never saw these people had it not been for the Navy. To go back to what you said earlier, what did it give me? It gave me a chance to see my relatives in another country. I thought to this day, that's the only time I ever saw them. So I got to see them because of the Navy. And then they always remembered me when they wrote to my mother.
Really?
And that's when I learned that you drink cognac with every meal over there too.
Yeah.
Breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
It's amazing how quick you can pick up
The language.
workable language.
You can learn it a lot. You can basically tell what people are saying if you've been around them and you're sitting there. You can sense what they're saying. You don't really know what they're saying, but you can sense what they're saying. You can just feel it. It's easier to do it
I
than
met in Mexico had a dictionary. It's called a Mexican dictionary, so that you could go look up an English word and give you the translation of that word. It's amazing. In a weekend, I could order drinks, I could get around, I could get a cab, I could just open the book and...
Oh yeah, I mean, certain words is all you need. You get one word in a sentence, you got an idea what they're saying. Mm-hmm. That's all it is.
And they know you're struggling because they're struggling too, because they don't know English, but it's amazing. I mean, you can just get around. You really couldn't do much else when you find single words. I mean, I couldn't put a sentence together.
But they know what you're saying when you come to a single word. You get an idea. They get an idea what you're talking about if you use the main word in the sentence.
Cancun with my daughter. This was 10 years ago, and we can tell somebody the number on our door. Our room was 732. Siete tres dos. We've never forgot that. We didn't remember anything else, but remember that.
Or Sinteta, Sinteta.
742.
Sinteta.
Right?
What was it? Say it again.
742.
732.
Siete tres dos.
732.
Or you can use 700, which would be Sinteta or whatever, however it is. You can use that way too. Go that way. Yeah, well, Spanish was the easiest one. I mean, and you could tell when we were in Spain too. These kids, you could throw coins down the street and then take off because they'll follow you. Just take a couple pennies and throw them down the street, and they'll all take off and go after the money. Then you go duck around a corner and try to get away. But if you go in the wrong place, they know because you close the gate and the gate's supposed to be open. They know it. They understand right there. They're waiting for you.
Know you're a soft touch, and they come after you for.
You go down to Mexico now, take one of those bus trips, and they're hanging there. You just got to throw candy or whatever it is on at them, and you're a soft touch. Oh, we were a soft touch when we were over there too. So I mean, Europe was a nice place to go. It was
good experience to learn how other people live.
And at that time, at that time I thought it was necessary because you had the Cold War. It was right after the Korean War and the Second World War. And I look back at it now, and it was everything that we did back then. It had to be done. It just had to be done just to make the relations better. And these people appreciated it. They know that we were there for them.
So you said you remember where you were when Kennedy was assassinated?
Yeah.
Were you still in the Navy?
No, I was out of the Navy.
You're
I was riding I just got in the car and was on the way to the cleaners. Take my clothes up to the cleaners.
Yeah.
I turned around and never made it to cleaners. Came home and told my mother they just shot Kennedy. So that's certain things in your life. I mean, you know exactly where you were and exactly what you were doing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I know that's what
I've heard that, and you're right. You do.
You know, you don't think about it, but if somebody asks you, oh yeah, it's just like I know the certain things when I was in the service. There were certain things that happened. I was there, and I know that it happened. I was sitting right there when it happened. So I don't ever bring it up unless it's asked to me. But I agree with the conversation that you and I had that I don't feel that people that were in the service talk much about it until they start getting up later in life because it really doesn't matter. People really don't seem to care.
Yeah.
Hollywood has changed everything so much. Hollywood has changed this missile crisis so much. They've made it look like this happened. It didn't happen the way anything you've seen on television with it. It isn't true. It's 50% true, and the other 50% is not true at all. But that's Hollywood, and they should get people that have actually been in there and done it. You know, the PT 109, it might be pretty true because they might have got it out of Kennedy before he died as to exactly what happened during that time or people that were in there.
Yeah.
So they could do the thing.
Well, even that was theatrical stuff, but you're right. They would have had a hard time trying to sell that to the public if it didn't have some truth to it.
But all the stuff that they've got on here, the Essex is never mentioned, never on anything. And the Essex was in the blockade. The VFW even knows it was because to join the VFW, I had to show what ship I was on at the time.
That was on purpose, though, too, I think.
Well, yeah. They don't want you to know, and they don't want to know what the dates, what actually happened with it. That just shows the medals that I had. I didn't know what the names of them were.
So do you think that you were sent down to Guantanamo?
Yes. I know what you're going to ask me. I know what you're going to ask me. Yes.
Yeah, that they knew that they were going to blockade.
Yes.
And they sent that contingent of Marines down there.
That was.
And
yes,
and it was just the moment that it was going to happen. That was the question. That was. So you were the we were the
ones that were the catalysts. We were sent down there because if you went down on a Thursday or Friday, why are you pulling out on a Saturday in general quarters?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
At 5 o'clock in the morning or 6 o'clock in the morning.
Right. Yeah.
And they had a detachment that was off the ship.
They knew that they were going to be taking action, and maybe the final details weren't.
Yeah, that's one of the ratings of the
They
ship.
wanted to get you down there as soon as possible. Yeah.
I don't know if you can get the whole thing in. I think that's in Dutch.
Thanks.
Now those are sailors.
Yep.
Lined up doing that, right?
Yeah, I'm in one of those letters.
So what does that say?
I forget what it is now. It's goodbye Yanks or Merry Christmas. I don't know. I forgot what it is. That's in Dutch. Dutch or German.
What are the letters? Gary, I can't.
Looks like you got the full complement of your Air
Yes.
Force right up on the top there.
It's difficult to see if it's D-O-E-D-Z or E.
Okay, you can read the letters on her better than they can. She must know what the letter says.
Oh, G-O-E-D-E,
J.
G.
G.
G-O-E.
Is in George?
G-O-E-D-E.
Yeah.
G-R-U-S-S-E.
R-U-S-S-E.
And then the
Yanks.
English word
Yanks.
Yanks.
So that's for
It
Americans.
must
That'll be for
Good
Americans then.
Cruise, probably. Put it through Google Translate.
Good Cruise or Good Cruise Americans or
Yeah.
And there's that dock.
I'm looking at the upside down one.
Oops.
Wow.
See, there was another carrier that was home ported there too, the Lake Champlain. That thing never went anyplace. And that one did not have an angled deck on it either, the Lake Champlain. That had the straight flat deck on it. But it never went anyplace. It never went overseas. It was always up. I thought it belonged to the Coast Guard at first because it seemed like it never left the shallow water.
Yeah, that's that dual launch and receive is kind of neat.
You got the one in there with the water coming over the flight deck in
Yeah.
there too. That's at our home port there. That's in Narragansett Bay. So you can see you got a lot of water to turn around in there.
There we go. I'm getting seasick already.
Now there's the water coming over the flight deck.
And that's taking it head on.
Yep.
Those aren't nearly as difficult as when you're taking them along the quarter. That's when it really makes the ship roll. And that really is relatively calm.
G-O-E-D-E is good something.
Yeah, it must be Good Cruise.
That's probably what it is. Good Cruise.
Good,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's down in the Virgin Islands. That's where you didn't dock there. We had to anchor out and then,
Yeah.
then they take you in.
The hell, it looks like a cruise ship out there on the far side. Where is this?
That's the Virgin Islands,
Oh.
St. Thomas.
Now you get a sense of how big them suckers are. What is that, a tanker?
That's a tanker there getting fuel. It's not even half the size of that ship.
Okay, this must be some historic place.
Yeah, that's in, I think that's Brussels. That's to the zoo, it's to a zoo, the Heidenberg Zoo or something like that. That's the zoo right there, that's the entrance to the zoo right there.
This must be another monument to somebody.
I think that was in Spain.
Oh, there's a,
The Spain was still under Franco at that point.
I can't answer that, I don't.
Yeah, he died a lot later. I remember when he died.
See, there's no planes on their ship at all, it's bare.
what are they all down there?
They're down Norfolk, Virginia.
Down in the hangar deck?
No, they're down in Norfolk, Virginia. We had to go pick them up.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we always had to go down and pick the always have to go down and pick up the flight crews. They were out of Norfolk.
I thought there was a rule, you never have a carrier naked.
Well,
Suppose it's because it's in a friendly port.
that's an air base right there where they were at, so Quonset Point Naval Air Station, so that's the border right there. That's the east-west German border.
Where's the wall?
There is no wall at the border. There was a wall in Berlin.
Oh, that's right.
I'm in
This
that
one's
picture
cute.
too. I got myself circled in that one right there.
They're all sitting there hanging on to the,
That's the same place. That's the end of the free world.
wow.
That's when we played hockey. We played the city of Hamburg in hockey, and on the carrier we could only find probably 10 of us that had ever been on skates before. I got to have the 3 girls at the end of the game.
Rough duty.
Well, it was terrible. Had to go drink beer, and the other one was there giving us the equipment, but there was only like 10 of us or 12 that had ever been on skates before, so. And in Europe, they play a different brand of hockey than what
Where
we
was
played.
this?
That was in Hamburg.
Was this
Germany.
vacation time or?
No, it
that
was
was
on
from-
leave. They challenged our ship. They challenged our ship to a hockey game. They must have figured everybody played hockey on there, so that might be the last page. There might be one more on there, but
Oh,
oh no,
this means you're
that's
officially
my
discharged?
that's my fraternities from college. So
Nice. What do we have in?
no, that's a
lunch?
menu. That's not that one doesn't go with that.
Oh.
That's a Bellingham Yacht Club in Washington. And then you got the medals on there, but that's it.
Upside down.
Those medals were the Regional Defense Service Medal, the Navy Expeditionary Medal for Cuba, and the Armed Forces Expedition Medal with a star for Berlin and Cuba. That just proves I was there. That's all it does.
Now, what was your rate when you got out?
E3, I couldn't go any higher.
Why not?
I didn't have enough time. By then you had to have so many months or so many times in service. If I would have stayed in another 3 months, I'd have been able to go up to E4, but they let me out as a convenience to the government.
And that just means for you to stay would be non-relevant.
No,
I mean, you're not gonna be in long enough to be able to go another rate up.
no, I could have gone with the officer I worked with when he got transferred. I could have gone with him. He would have got orders that I could have gone with him, but I wanted to go on to college after that, so
So when you get out, what did you do?
I went to college.
Where?
I went to Henry Ford Community College, then Macomb, and then Wayne State.
GI Bill?
Cruise.
Yep, I used whatever I could out of the GI Bill.
Buy a house?
Elected benefit.
With the GI
No, with the veterans, no, I still got that to this day. Never used it.
Really?
Yeah, I forgot I had it for a long time. But I got the veterans, I still got the veterans thing now. Never went into business with it either.
Were you married yet?
No. I didn't get married for another 10 or 15 years after I got out of the service.
Wow. How big is your family?
I got 2 daughters.
They are local here?
Yeah, one's a teacher and one's a doctor.
What kind of doctor?
Physical therapy.
Cruise doesn't.
Yeah.
transfer
Have they
very
heard the
well.
story?
I've talked a little bit about
Mine
it with them.
just kind of colloquial or-
They're aware of it. I've talked a little bit about it with them at times, and they got questions about the military. They'll come and ask me. I got no problem with talking to them about the military at all. They know that I was happy with what I did. If I had to do it all over again, I wouldn't even give it a second thought. I'd go back again in a heartbeat.
So you were like an aide to the intelligence officer, is that what What you
Yeah,
did?
I got into the job accidentally because I knew how to type. And then, of course, they had to run clearances on me. They had to start running confidential,
Yeah.
anybody can get. Then you get a secret, then you get a top secret. And then it goes on from there to crypto or whatever it is in there. And they just keep running the clearances on you. And I hadn't done anything wrong in my life, so I wasn't worried about any clearances. But it was just a fluke how I got the job. And the intelligence officer and I became real good friends. And I don't know whatever happened to him. But I learned from him, and I was just glad that I had the job because of what I did know.
Yeah.
I knew where the missile bases in the world were at the time, and there was a lot of stuff I knew back then that the common person never knew. But I kept it to myself like a good boy.
Good for you, that's,
It was hard to do. It was
Yeah.
hard because I couldn't even when I go home to see my parents, I couldn't talk about it. I didn't talk about it. I just, well, what's new? Well, we went to here, went to there. And the common stuff I could talk with my parents about. Now I talk to my daughters about it, and they know pretty much what I did. If other people ask me, I'll tell them, and I don't really get into it because it's really not that big of a deal for them anymore to know.
do you ever see any of the other guys?
No, there is only one that I've tried to get a hold of, and
That's
I
the one
can't
where you
get a hold of
got kinda fussed up about before you left? And then you hadn't seen him in about 30 years?
yeah, I haven't seen him in a long. Yeah, he was my closest friend in there too. He was the one that would notify me if the ship was getting ready to move too. So, but he was out of Bethesda, Maryland. But I haven't been able to find him anymore. So that's pretty well my military history.
You mentioned that you got some letters from your mother while the blockade was going on.
Yeah.
How were you getting mail if you were at sea?
Gets flown on.
Okay. So they continued that on a regular basis.
When they were close enough to shore where they could pick
Okay.
up the mail would always get pushed. Like if we were going to go, they knew where the ship was going to be. So if you were within flight distance from a certain place, they'd have all our mail
Okay.
transferred there, and then the planes would pick it up and bring it on for us.
Okay.
And then we pick it up for the destroyers at the same time, and then when
Yeah.
the destroyers were with us, we'd highline it over to them
Yeah.
so that they could get the mail to their
Okay.
personnel also.
Okay.
That's how we got it. It was a
I
tugboat or another destroyer had it.
I often wondered how sailors
No,
had.
we-
I mean, I could understand they know you're going to this port or that port, and they get it over there, but I never understood how they were really getting it at
Yeah,
sea.
they'd fly off. They'd go
Okay.
pick it up for us too. They'd fly off
Okay.
and go get it for us too, wherever that mail was being transferred to.
Okay.
Of course, it'll take a week or two, but
Well, yeah, but
Because it all went to back then. I don't know how they do it now. It went to an APO or an
Right.
FPO mailing, and then
Right.
that's why they always wanted when you put FPO,
Right,
your
right.
ship